In the heart of Washington, a critical deadline is fast approaching, casting a shadow over the Capitol and the entire nation. The stakes are high, and the tension is palpable as lawmakers scramble to find common ground before time runs out. The threat of a partial government shutdown looms large, with the potential to disrupt the daily lives of millions of Americans. Offices could shutter, paychecks could be delayed, and essential services may grind to a halt, affecting everything from national parks to passport processing. At the center of this standoff is a contentious spending bill for the Department of Homeland Security. The most heated debate revolves around funding for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, an agency that has become a lightning rod for controversy in recent years. The bill is just one piece of a much larger government funding package, but it has become a battleground for deep ideological divisions. Both progressive and conservative lawmakers have voiced strong objections, making the bill's passage anything but certain. If Congress fails to reach an agreement by the January 30th deadline, the consequences will be immediate and severe. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers could be furloughed without pay, and critical government functions could be suspended, leaving many Americans in limbo. The fierce debate over ICE funding is about more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a proxy war over the nation's approach to immigration, the powers of law enforcement, and the very role of government in American society. Progressive lawmakers and activists are calling for sweeping reforms and greater accountability for ICE, citing concerns over civil rights, family separations, and the agency's enforcement tactics. They argue that the current system is broken and in need of urgent change. On the other side, conservative hardliners insist that the bill does not go far enough to secure the border and enforce immigration laws. They warn that weakening ICE could undermine national security and encourage illegal immigration. This rare moment of opposition, from both ends of the political spectrum, has left the bill's sponsors in a precarious position, scrambling to build a coalition that can carry the legislation across the finish line. Behind closed doors, negotiations are tense, and the pressure is mounting. As the clock ticks down, lawmakers are working late into the night, searching for a compromise that can bridge the deep ideological divide. The outcome of these negotiations will not only determine whether the government stays open, but also set the tone for future debates on immigration and national security. The decisions made in the coming days will have far-reaching consequences for the country, shaping the future of immigration policy and the role of government for years to come. Progressive Democrats are at the forefront of a growing movement to challenge the Department of Homeland Security's funding bill, raising their voices both inside Congress and out in the streets. They argue that the current bill fails to address the deep-rooted issues within ICE, an agency that has long been criticized for its controversial practices and lack of transparency. These lawmakers, joined by activists and civil rights groups, point to a troubling record of civil liberties violations, including reports of unjust detentions, racial profiling, and inadequate oversight mechanisms. They believe that without meaningful change, the same abuses will continue unchecked. As a result, they are refusing to support any funding bill that doesn't include substantial enforceable reforms, measures that go beyond surface-level fixes and actually hold ICE accountable for its actions. While the proposed bill includes provisions for body cameras and new training protocols for ICE agents, progressives argue these steps are simply not enough. They see them as inadequate half-measures that fail to address the systemic problems at the heart of the agency. The congressional progressive Winde Kanobarberdum D. Gur Auguskan Suur Bassas the Deribriston show, representing dozens of lawmakers, is using its collective power to demand real guardrails and robust accountability. They are leveraging their votes to force a broader debate about the future of ICE and the direction of U.S. immigration policy. Their moral opposition is fueled by years of aggressive immigration raids, high-profile family separations, and the lasting trauma inflicted on immigrant communities. These experiences have galvanized progressives to push for transformative change, not just incremental reform. Many progressives remain deeply skeptical that the Trump administration would even enforce new rules, given its track record of sidestepping oversight and resisting accountability. This skepticism only strengthens their resolve to demand stronger protections. For these lawmakers and their supporters, this vote is more than just a legislative battle. It's a test of national values and a demand for a fundamentally more humane and just immigration system. With distrust of the current political climate running high, their push for stronger restrictions and real accountability has never felt more urgent or more necessary. The debate over ICE funding, already a flashpoint in Congress, turned deeply personal and emotionally charged after a single, devastating event. The fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good by ICE agents in Minnesota sent shockwaves through the nation, igniting outrage and sorrow in equal measure. The incident, which unfolded during a late-night operation, quickly became a symbol of the dangers and controversies surrounding ICE's enforcement tactics. In the days that followed, communities across Minnesota and beyond gathered for vigils and marches, demanding answers and accountability. The tragedy galvanized opponents of ICE, transforming what had been a heated legislative battle into a passionate plea for justice and sweeping reform. Progressive leaders and activists pointed to Renee's death as undeniable evidence of systemic problems within immigration enforcement. They argued that the tragedy exposed the urgent need to rethink ICE's role and the tactics it employs, warning that without change, more lives could be at risk. Representative Ilhan Omar, whose own district was shaken by the shooting, emerged as a leading voice in the movement. She spoke out forcefully, vowing not to support any funding for ICE until meaningful reforms were enacted, and calling on her colleagues to stand with her in demanding accountability. For many Americans, the event shifted the debate from abstract policy arguments to urgent, human stakes. Families watched the news in fear, wondering if their loved ones could be next, while lawmakers faced mounting pressure to act. In Congress, Renee Nicole Good's name became a rallying cry. Lawmakers invoked her memory in speeches and debates, demanding accountability and a new approach to immigration enforcement. The shooting hardened the resolve of progressives, making compromise on the bill seem increasingly out of reach. The divide between those calling for reform and those defending the status quo grew sharper with each passing day. The memory of Renee Nicole Good now looms over Congress, a somber reminder of the real-world consequences of policy decisions. Her story has become a touchstone in the fight for meaningful change. For many, honoring Renee Nicole Good means refusing to accept the status quo and demanding a future where tragedies like hers never happen again. While progressives want stricter oversight, conservative Republicans argue the bill is too soft on immigration enforcement. They demand more funding for ICE, more agents, and tougher border security measures. Provisions limiting data sharing and reducing enforcement are seen as dangerous concessions. Hardliners like Andy Harris and Scott Perry insist the bill should reflect a pure Republican agenda, not a bipartisan compromise. Any hint of sanctuary policies or restrictions on ICE is a deal-breaker for them. Conservatives plan to introduce amendments to toughen the bill, setting up a fierce internal battle. Their opposition threatens to derail the bill from the right, just as progressives do from the left. Key lawmakers have become the faces of opposition in this debate. Representative Ilhan Omar links the ICE funding bill directly to the recent shooting, declaring she won't support a rogue agency. Representative Maxine Dexter calls the bill a failure of leadership, demanding real accountability for ICE. On the right, Andy Harris targets provisions he says undermine law enforcement, especially those blocking data sharing on migrant children. Tim Burchett, focused on fiscal responsibility, remains undecided, wary of garbage spending. These voices highlight the deep divisions and the challenge of finding any middle ground. Both sides see the bill as a test of principle, not just policy. The leadership faces a nearly impossible task in reconciling these demands. The House's razor-thin Republican majority makes passing the DHS bill a high-wire act. With recent vacancies, Speaker McCarthy can only afford to lose 2 GOP votes. Small factions like the Freedom Caucus wield outsized power, able to block legislation if their demands aren't met. Leadership must balance appeasing hardliners without losing moderates or potential Democratic support. Every vote is a negotiation, with undecided members holding the fate of the bill. Concessions to conservatives risk alienating Democrats, and vice versa. The Speaker is caught between rebellion on the right and the need for bipartisan cooperation. The slim majority turns routine governance into a constant crisis, amplifying shutdown risks. The DHS funding bill was crafted as a bipartisan compromise, blending Democratic reforms with Republican priorities, but the very concessions meant to attract support have become flashpoints for both sides. Progressives see the reforms as too weak, conservatives see them as dangerous concessions. The bill's moderate supporters are drowned out by louder, more ideological voices. With defections on both flanks, the bill's survival is in serious doubt. Its struggle reflects a Congress where compromise is increasingly viewed with suspicion. The fate of the bill is a test of whether bipartisan solutions are still possible. If the DHS funding bill fails, a partial government shutdown becomes likely. Essential workers would remain on the job without pay, while hundreds of thousands face furloughs. Services from passport processing to public health initiatives would be disrupted nationwide. The economic cost would be enormous, with billions lost each day. Congress might try a short-term funding extension, but even that faces political hurdles. Failure to pass the bill would further erode public trust in government. The blame game would intensify, but the real impact would hit federal workers and everyday Americans. The stakes are practical and immediate, not just political. The ICE funding fight exposes a nation divided over immigration, security, and justice. Progressives demand accountability and compassion. Conservatives want strict enforcement and border security. The gulf between these visions makes compromise nearly impossible. Whether the bill passes or fails, the underlying conflict will persist. A narrow passage would be a temporary truce, not a solution. A shutdown would deepen divisions and make future deals harder. The cycle of crisis-driven governance is likely to continue. Real progress requires honest national dialogue and leadership willing to bridge divides. Until then, Congress will keep lurching from one funding crisis to the next, with the nation's security and values at stake.